Are you completely out of your mind? The heavy, custom oak door flew open. And before I could even get the words out to say good afternoon, the screaming started. I am not taking this from a dirty, incompetent thief like you. You really think I don't know what you people do? I'm calling corporate right this second. I'm getting you fired. And you can forget about ever showing your face in this gated community again. And then, she slammed the door so hard the glass panes rattled in their frames. Let's just freeze right here for a second. That woman standing on the other side of that door is Meredith Vance. She is a highly paid corporate consultant, a millionaire who lives in a massive mansion. And she just snatched a $112 premium sushi platter right out of my hands. Now, she is actively dialing customer support to file a fake police report and destroy my entire livelihood. Why? Simply because she figured out a loophole to get a free lunch, and she thinks someone like me is too powerless to fight back. If you are absolutely sick of watching entitled elites step all over hardworking, honest people just because they have money, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button right now, because I promise you, the way this arrogant woman gets completely dismantled and publicly humiliated by the end of this story, is going to be the most satisfying thing you watch all month. But to really understand how we got to this absolute nightmare of a situation, we have to rewind the clock, back to the beginning of the day. My name is Marcus. I am a 28-year-old independent gig worker, just doing everything in my power to survive and thrive in the modern American hustle. I don't come from a trust fund. I don't have a safety net. I spend my early mornings delivering premium food orders, my afternoons running corporate errands, and my late nights hunched over my laptop, teaching myself coding and digital marketing. I have a deeply ingrained wealth mindset. I am constantly reading up on self-development because my ultimate goal is complete financial freedom. I don't believe in making excuses, and I am absolutely not afraid of failure. If I say I am going to do something, I get it done. Period. When I need a break from the endless grind, I am usually out in my small backyard, tending to my vegetable garden or feeding the koi fish in my little aquaponics pond. Those quiet moments of raising life and staying connected to nature keep my mind incredibly positive and sharply focused. And I need that focus. Because I am doing all of this for a very specific reason. My younger sister, Maya, just started her freshman year at a top-tier state university. When our mother passed away, I made a solemn promise that Maya would never have to take out a single predatory student loan, or work exhausting double shifts just to afford her textbooks. Every single delivery I complete, every 5-star review I manage to earn from a customer, is another solid brick in the foundation of my family's future. I have over 2,000 completed deliveries on this platform. I maintain a near-perfect 4.98 rating. I pride myself on extreme professionalism. If you respect that kind of relentless, quiet grind, and you support the vision of building up your family no matter the odds, drop the words Black Excellence in the comments down below. Let's flood that comment section and show the algorithm that true human value is not measured by the square footage of your house, but by the undeniable integrity of your daily hustle. So, it was a brutally hot Tuesday afternoon. The kind of oppressive summer heat that makes the asphalt shimmer. I was sitting in my 2012 Honda Civic, the air conditioning struggling to keep up, when my phone chimed with a high-value notification. It was a premium catering order from Tomo Bistro, the most exclusive sushi restaurant in the downtown district. The total value of the food was $112, and it was going straight to Oak Ridge Estates. In the gig economy, an order like this is usually the highlight of your entire shift. A massive order going to a wealthy neighborhood almost always guarantees a solid $20 or $30 tip. That meant I could knock off work an hour early, head home, make dinner for Maya, and get back to my coding courses. I drove the 20 minutes out to the suburbs. Let me paint a picture of Oak Ridge Estates for you. This isn't just a neighborhood, it is a fortress of extreme wealth. The massive wrought iron security gates look like they belong to a royal palace. The lawns are manicured with literal scissors to ensure every blade of grass is the exact same height. The streets are eerily silent. It is the kind of place designed to lock extreme privilege inside, and keep the noisy, working-class reality completely out. You drive through those gates in a battered Honda, and you instantly feel the heavy, invisible weight of judgment from every single security camera and passing Porsche. I pulled up to the custom-paved driveway of Meredith Vance's estate. The house was a sprawling modern colonial with massive white pillars, and a perfectly shaded recessed front porch. I carefully unbuckled the heavy, bright red insulated catering bag from my passenger seat, treating the delicate sushi containers inside like they were made of fragile glass. I wiped a thick bead of sweat from my forehead, adjusted my uniform shirt to look as presentable as possible, and walked up the long stone path. I pressed the glowing smart doorbell and waited. I could hear the soft, expensive hum of massive central air conditioning units keeping the inside of the mansion at a frosty 68 degrees. A few moments later, the heavy door swung open. There she was. Meredith Vance. She was dressed in pristine, stark white designer athleisure wear, holding a sweating glass of iced matcha green tea. She looked me up and down, starting from my scuffed sneakers, up to my faded jeans, and finally settling on my face. The look in her eyes wasn't just annoyed, it was pure, unfiltered disgust. To her, I wasn't a human being. I wasn't a young man working hard to put his sister through college. I was just a mobile app function brought to life. A temporary, lower-class servant who existed solely to cater to her immediate convenience. I put on my best, most polite customer service smile. I greeted her warmly, unzipped the insulated bag, and carefully extended the pristine white paper bags containing her gourmet lunch. She didn't say thank you. She didn't even acknowledge my greeting. She just snatched the bags violently out of my hands, her manicured acrylic nails accidentally scratching the back of my hand in the process. "About time," she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "The app said you would be here 3 minutes ago. Next time, try moving a little faster. Some of us actually have important corporate conference calls to run. Not that you would understand what that means." Before I could even open my mouth to apologize, and explain that the interstate was backed up due to heavy road construction, she stepped back and slammed the door directly in my face. The sheer force of it blew a gust of cold air over my sweating face. I stood there for a split second, taking a deep, calming breath. In this line of work, you swallow your pride a dozen times a day. You cannot let the toxic arrogance of unhappy people drag down your positive mindset. I pulled out my phone, snapped the platform's mandatory delivery confirmation photo showing her holding the bag in the doorway just before it closed, clicked the confirm delivery button, and walked quietly back to my car. I assumed that was the end of it. I drove away, thinking I was $20 closer to financial freedom. But I was dead wrong. I had barely cleared the massive iron security gates of the neighborhood and pulled onto the main highway, when my phone vibrated with a long, violent, continuous buzz. It wasn't the pleasant chime of a new order, or a tip notification. It was a harsh digital error tone. I immediately pulled over into the empty parking lot of a strip mall, and picked up my phone. My heart dropped straight into my stomach, turning to absolute ice. The app screen had turned bright, glaring red. A massive pop-up notification read, "Account deactivated. Permanent ban. Severe suspicion of fraud and grand theft." I couldn't breathe. I frantically tapped the screen, trying to refresh the page, but I was completely locked out. My active weekly balance, nearly $900 of hard-earned cash, that I desperately needed to pay rent on Friday and buy Maya's biology textbooks, was instantly frozen. Gone. Purgatory. Meredith Vance had literally waited until my car was out of sight, opened her app, and reported the high-value order as never delivered. She had typed out a formal, written complaint to corporate, explicitly stating that I had driven up to her house, falsified the delivery status, and aggressively stolen her premium food. In the cold, ruthless algorithm of the gig economy, there is no presumption of innocence. There is no human resources department you can appeal to. When a multi-millionaire living in an exclusive zip code contradicts a working-class black delivery driver, the automated system defaults to protecting the wealthy customer every single time. It is a toxic loophole that entitled elites use to get free things, completely disregarding the human collateral damage they cause in the process. My hands were physically shaking against the steering wheel. I immediately dialed the emergency driver support hotline. I waited on hold for 10 agonizing minutes. Before a Tier 1 customer service agent sitting in a call center thousands of miles away finally answered. I begged them to listen. I told them I had over 2,000 deliveries and a perfect track record. I told them I had a photo of the drop-off. I pleaded, explaining that the frozen money in that account was my absolute lifeline. The agent just sighed, a bored, robotic sound. "Sir, I am looking at the report. The customer is a VIP premium user. She explicitly stated she checked her entire property and spoke with her private security. No food was delivered. Because of our strict zero-tolerance policy on theft, your account termination is final. The funds will be held indefinitely pending a 90-day internal legal review. Have a good day." Click. The line went dead. I sat in my sweltering car, staring at my dark reflection in the blank phone screen. I felt an overwhelming, crushing wave of powerlessness. I knew exactly what Meredith Vance was doing right at that moment. She was probably sitting in her air-conditioned kitchen, eating the sushi I brought her, laughing and texting her wealthy friends about her clever little life hack to get a free $100 lunch. She had destroyed my entire livelihood, my reputation, and my peace of mind in less than 5 minutes. And she did it with a smile on her face. It is incredibly easy to lose your mind when someone puts a trap in front of your feet and watches you fall. But the moment you stop letting anger control your actions, and start using your brain as a tactical weapon, the entire game changes. I took a deep, shaky breath, wiped the cold sweat off my face, and threw my phone onto the passenger seat. I wasn't going to just crawl away and cry. I turned the ignition, flipped my car around, and drove straight back to Oak Ridge Estates. Now, I knew I couldn't just walk up to her front door and confront her. That is exactly what people like her want you to do. If I raised my voice on her property, she would immediately call her private security, play the terrified victim, and I would be the one leaving in the back of a police cruiser before I could even explain my side of the story. But like I said, I study digital marketing. I understand data, and I understand tracking. I know for an absolute fact that you cannot take a single step in a high-income neighborhood without being recorded. Every single modern estate is a highly interconnected web of passive digital surveillance. I just needed to find the one digital thread that could unravel her entire web of lies. I parked my car a few blocks outside the main perimeter. I didn't want my license plate getting flagged by the gate cameras again. I walked back into the neighborhood on foot, keeping my head down, studying the exact layout of the street. I walked slowly past Meredith's massive property. I noticed that her front porch was deeply recessed, and heavily shadowed by these large decorative pillars. It was completely hidden from the main street view, and she didn't have any visible security cameras installed on her own front awning. She had purposely chosen that architectural blind spot to perpetrate her fraud, thinking no one could ever prove what happened in those 10 square feet. But then, I stopped dead in my tracks. I turned around completely and looked directly across the narrow cul-de-sac. Sitting right opposite Meredith's sprawling mansion was a much smaller, older, but impeccably clean brick colonial house. The front yard was filled with blooming hydrangeas and meticulously tended rose bushes. It looked like it belonged to someone from a completely different generation. And right there, mounted dead center on the dark wooden front door, was a high-definition, wide-angle smart ring camera. Because of the slight elevation of the street and the angle of the houses, that tiny camera lens had a perfectly clear, unobstructed line of sight straight across the asphalt. It was aiming directly at Meredith Vance's front door. If you are sitting there realizing that this arrogant woman is about to get caught in her own trap, and you love seeing true justice unfold, drop a comment saying Black excellence right now. Let's remind the world that brilliance and strategy aren't born in a corporate boardroom. They are forged in the fire of real-world struggle. I walked up the stone steps of the brick house. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I gently pressed the doorbell. A few seconds passed, and the door opened to reveal an elderly, soft-spoken man wearing a faded cardigan. His name was Mr. Abernathy, a retired high school history teacher. I looked him right in the eye, and with absolute sincerity, I explained the entire nightmare. I told him my livelihood was just destroyed over a plate of fish. I told him about my sister, Maya, and how I couldn't afford to lose this income. I pointed at his camera and begged him, just asked him man to man, if it might have caught the delivery. Mr. Abernathy didn't look at me with suspicion. He didn't treat me like a nuisance. He looked at me with deep empathy. He told me he had lived across from Meredith for years, and was thoroughly sick and tired of watching her treat working-class folks like garbage. He invited me inside out of the blistering heat, right into his kitchen. We sat down at his table, fired up his tablet, and opened the cloud storage app. We scrolled back to the exact minute I had pulled up to the curb. The footage was breathtakingly clear. You could see my battered Honda pull up. You could see me walk up the path carrying the bright red bag. But most importantly, the camera zoomed in with stunning high-definition clarity on Meredith's double doors. There she was. Plain as day. Reaching out her hands, grabbing the white catering bags from me, flashing a smug, self-satisfied little smile, and firmly shutting the door. There was absolutely no room for interpretation. It was ironclad, foolproof, digital proof of her calculated deception. Mr. Abernathy looked at the screen, shook his head in absolute disgust, and immediately downloaded the raw, unedited video file directly to my phone. He patted my shoulder and told me to go show that woman that her money couldn't erase the truth. Now, 99% of people in my position would have done the standard thing. They would have gone back to the app's customer support chat, uploaded the video, and waited 3 to 5 business days for a generic automated email apologizing for the error and reinstating their account. But I had learned a vital lesson about the world that afternoon. When the elite attack you, they don't just play a game within the app. They attack your character, your honor, and your freedom. Meredith Vance hadn't just violated a corporate terms of service agreement. She had intentionally used an electronic communication network to execute a fraudulent scheme for financial gain. She had signed a digital legal affidavit accusing an innocent man of grand larceny. She had committed a serious, federal-level crime known as wire fraud. So, I didn't go to corporate. I walked straight out of that neighborhood, drove directly into the local police precinct, and sat down across from a senior detective. I laid out my delivery log, my frozen earnings report, and the pristine high-definition video from Mr. Abernathy's camera. When you stop fighting on their terms, and force them to face the real, unyielding power of the law, the entire power structure crumbles to pieces. If you want to make sure you never miss another masterclass in sweet, calculated justice, hit that subscribe button immediately. The tide is about to turn, and it is glorious. Fast forward 2 tense hours. The sun is beginning to set, casting long, dramatic shadows across Meredith Vance's driveway. Meredith is sitting in her lavish home office, probably feeling absolutely untouchable, completely wrapped in her own bubble of self-importance. Suddenly, a series of heavy, commanding, authoritative knocks echo from her front door. She sighs, visibly irritated by the interruption. She assumes it is another delivery or maybe a neighbor coming over to chat. She swings the massive oak door open, adjusting her expensive jewelry, expecting to see someone she can boss around. Instead, she is staring directly into the stern, unsmiling faces of 2 uniformed police officers. And standing just a few feet behind them on the sidewalk, with my arms crossed and my head held incredibly high, is me. She immediately scoffs. She tries to play the victim, demanding to know why I am allowed back on her property, loudly claiming to the officers that I had just stolen her food earlier that afternoon. The lead detective doesn't say a single word. He simply reaches into his vest, pulls out his department-issued tablet, and presses play. The high-definition video of Meredith happily grabbing the sushi platter fills the screen, playing on a continuous, glaring loop. The silence that followed was deafening. Meredith's eyes go wide. The color instantly drains from her face, leaving her looking pale and sickly. Her jaw literally drops open in pure, unadulterated shock. She realizes, in a fraction of a second, that her entire facade of perfection has been shattered. She starts frantically stammering, her voice shaking. She tries to weave a massive lie, claiming it was a huge misunderstanding, a glitch in her memory because she orders so many things. She even desperately reaches for her designer purse, offering to just pay the $100 in cash right there on the porch to make the officers go away. The officer shakes his head coldly. He tells her that wire fraud is not a simple mistake. He orders her to turn around and place her hands behind her back. She tried to destroy a young man's entire future just to save $100, and she ended up trading her freedom, her reputation, and her career for a set of cold steel handcuffs. That is the ultimate manifestation of black excellence, staying completely composed, leveraging the truth with intelligence, and watching the people who tried to bury you fall directly into the grave they dug for themselves. Flood the comments with black excellence right now if you are absolutely ecstatic to see this pure karma served cold. Meredith Vance wept openly, heavy tears ruining her makeup, as the handcuffs clicked tightly around her wrists. She was physically escorted down her long stone path. By this time, all of her wealthy, image-obsessed neighbors had stepped out onto their perfectly manicured lawns. They were holding up their smartphones, taking photos, and whispering in delighted shock. The proud, untouchable corporate consultant was hauled off to the county jail like a common thief. Her career ruined and her pristine reputation completely obliterated. Later that evening, the police department submitted the official fraud report directly to the delivery app's corporate legal team. When a massive tech company is faced with an active police investigation proving a customer committed wire fraud on their servers, they move lightning fast. Within 1 hour, my account was fully reinstated. My $900 was unfrozen and deposited. The company's regional vice president personally called my cell phone to issue a profound, groveling apology. They deposited a $5,000 corporate bonus into my account for the trauma, and upgraded me to a premium VIP courier. I walked back to my car that night, looked up at the dark sky, and finally let out a long, peaceful breath. I had protected my sister's future. I had proven that my dignity wasn't for sale. But let me ask you a serious question, and I want you to look deep inside yourself and be completely honest. If you were that elderly neighbor, standing quietly behind your living room window, watching a wealthy elite try to destroy a young man's life over a plate of food, what would you actually do? Would you have the courage to open your door, invite him in, and hand over that video evidence? Or would you simply shut the blinds, mind your own business, and protect your comfortable, quiet status in the neighborhood? Let me know your genuine thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you right here tomorrow for another explosive story of real-world karma. Peace.